Hey guys, it's me, Chris Orme, and welcome back once again to the channel. Now today we're jumping back in to Starters Orders 6, a very fun, stable management system for the horse racing world. I like the game, I've had a lot of hours of enjoyment. I do recommend you check out the description. It has a list of the mods I'm using, it has a list of the where you can go to download them. There's also links there to the official forums, which is where all the mods are hosted anyway. There's an online league, which I'll talk a little bit about later on, as well as the fact that the link to buy the game itself, the main website. So there is a demo available. I highly recommend, if you like what you see, go check it out and maybe pick it up. I think it's worth the money. So without further ado, let's jump into things. And this, you will notice, is an ongoing save. You can see we're in 2020. I have an absolute ton of money in the bank. Most of which, if we look here, I've made in the last week. The first week of this 5th season, I have made, what's that, $29.2 million. Why have I made that many? Because I'm selling so many horses. That's the great secret to success. I did also bet heavily. I got about 30 million in betting in my first season. Used that to fully upgrade the stables and set everything on the highest. And basically I don't need to worry about anything now. I've got a great setup. That's all I got to deal with. And this was a breeding save. This wasn't about so much winning in game. It's about trying to develop the horses in game to a point where they're good enough to go into the breeding ban and the transfer list, and then basically breed more and more great horses from them. Eventually merge those bloodlines and just try and produce something for the online league, which is my goal going forward. Now, the online league is a huge step forward from the game itself. It's a big step up in terms of what kind of quality horses you are going to need, because you are going up against other real world people who have been training their horses in their game, breeding bloodlines for, in some cases, hundreds if not thousands of generations. I'm a long way off that. I think I've got a third generation. I believe Starboard Princess is a third generation, technically. Maybe even a fourth generation, thinking about it. I don't know. We'll take a look at that a little bit later on. But like I say, I'm trying to get there. I did lose my transfer list because on pre-Windows 10, of course, when you had blue screen errors, the computer would kind of like freeze and crash, and if you were in the middle of doing something important in this game, it could wipe some of the files or corrupt some of the files. I had that happen to me. I could only pick up a transfer file with 4 or 5 horses on it. The 4 I chose from that, I think there was another one that wasn't very good. It was a 2-year-old. I was waiting to see how it would develop. But these were the 4 I picked up: Peaches, Starboard Bow, Hidden Recipe, Kitty Kingdom. I saved those from a very early version of this, of my transfer list, because you do need to back that kind of things up. If you want to know how, check the forums. There's a ton of information on there to help you sort of save your horses, duplicate your horses for breeding or testing in different games to see how they would develop in different situations. I suggest going on there. Great people, great information. They will really help you get to grips with this game a lot quicker. So, as I say, I basically bred these horses together to give me 2 to begin with that would really sort of kickstart this game going forward. I haven't added anything else to the breeding ban since. I have been breeding them a heck of a lot, and with that 30 million that I bet basically and gambled my way towards in that first sort of 6 months to a year, I upgraded all the facilities, and that enabled me to get a good jump on the breeding, and up to now I haven't really kept anybody, which is the downside. You know, there's no 4-year-olds, there's no 3-year-olds. I kept Starboard Princess and Stealthy Lioness, and that was it. Now, for 2-year-olds, last season we had 4 good ones. I've got 3 that I think could make it this season. I actually kept like 8 or 9 2-year-olds last year, but by the end of the season we'd whittle it down to just 4, trying to get the numbers down and just, keep refining that quality level and keep pushing yourself up and up until you're only breeding the best of the best. Now, luckily, from an old PC that I didn't realize that I still had files on, or more specifically starters orders files on, I was able to save my entire transfer list. But that only came about, I only realized that a couple of days ago, just under a week ago, and it's taken me time now to get it in here. And now I've added Starboard Princess and Stealthy Lioness to it. They are both great horses who have earned an absolute fortune, and there are some really nice horses in this mix as well. So what we're going to be doing, or I'm going to be doing off camera, I'll add more horses to this as this and other games go on, and then I've got a little file. I've got an Excel spreadsheet which basically lists all the important information as I see it for each horse, which is pretty much their name, rating, sex, age, ability potential, deterioration rate, stamina, their running distance, their breeding indicator distance, any disposition, whether they are excitable, laid back, or normal. Because I believe that a laid back horse should win more races. I think it's more conductive to winning, so I will keep track of that. Their battling qualities and cruising burst, because those are 2 hard to find sometimes stats in your horses that can make a big difference on how much they can win the big races. As well as that, I make a note of their sire and mare, just so I can see who in fact are my best breeders. So I can tell which bloodlines have come from which. I don't mix them too much unless I really want a trait from one bloodline in the other, and so on. So those are kind of what I look for, and I'll use those lists then to refine this and delete some of these horses, so we're always again pushing just towards breeding and keeping the best of the best. So with that said, we're going to jump on into things here, take a look at the horses we've got, and then start racing and just see what these 2-year-olds are like, how good these 3-year-olds could be, and if we've got a chance at the Triple Crown this season. And then basically along the way we might lose 1 or 2 of these horses, might have to sell them if they're not up to that absolute tip top sort of racing level of winning consistently at Group 1. Then they might have to go, and we're going to keep breeding along the way as well to build a new class of yearlings to replace the one that at the end of this season are going to join our stable as 2-year-olds. And we do have quite a few of those, and quite a few colts this year. It seems there's a lot of colts, not too many fillies, which has been pretty much the opposite in most years, to be fair. We've had a lot of fillies, not very many colts, which is why you can see we've kept more fillies than colts. So starting first, let's go to the best horse for me. You can see 18.5 million prize money for Starboard Princess, 25 wins in 30 races, 131 rated 5-year-old, 15 Group 1 wins, 4 Group 2 and 2 Group 3 wins. Now, she has had a little bit of issues here. A couple of seconds last year, a third last year. Not a huge sort of success at 4-year-old season, But ultimately, in the two big races, the Dubai World Cup, 6 million rated race, won it, earned an absolute fortune. The $5 million prize race, the Breeders' Cup Classic, excuse me, she won that quite handily as well. So, you know, I did step up to a mile 3 for a couple of races. Didn't work out as well as I'd hoped. I thought she had the stamina for it. Turns out maybe not. So, a lot of money earned there by the Starboard Princess. And you can see great speed, maxed out the bar. Acceleration, it's about 85% of the way. Starting, that's about 60. That's not a bad thing, especially because she's not a front runner. She doesn't need an especially good start. Instead, she tends to like to go in towards the middle or the front of the pack and just right behind 1 to 4 places behind the leader. And she likes to stalk them down then through 3/4 of the race and end with a strong run. And that's kind of what I like to see in my horses as well. Don't lead until the final couple of furlongs and really push out over that final 1.5 to 1 furlongs where you put your foot down and just drive out to the line. Now, if we look at the detailed stats, you can see potential rating. She's got a little bit to go. She's maxed that out in every season she's had. I believe she started at an 82 potential, maxed that out at the end of her 2-year-old season. At the end of 3-year-old, she was up to 90 or 91. 94 or so, I believe, is where she starts this season. That's where she ended a 4-year-old. And now she's gained another couple of percentage. You can barely see it there, but you can see that light green at the end, which means there's a little bit of improvement the Starboard Princess could achieve in a 5-year-old season. Now, as well as that, no battling qualities. That's a shame. I haven't got a horse that has any yet. But she does have the highest of all my horses currently, which is 55. There is a 3-year-old who comes pretty close, I believe. I think that might be Crimson Star, a colt, which is good because I don't have too many good colts coming through. Decent extra speed, you can see finish, consistency, surface adaptability, and a little bit of distance adaptability as well. Starboard Princess is a star of a horse. Now, that was bred between the Starboard Bow and Peaches. That's a mile 2 horse, right in that kind of sweet spot for the Triple Crown. And as you can see here towards the bottom, won the Kentucky Derby, second in the Preakness, and won the Belmont. Why didn't it win the Preakness? I sabotaged myself. Stealthy Lioness, the other super horse I'd bred at the start of this game, actually won by 1/4 of a length. Yeah, it's a better short distance horse. This was always better over distance. So it actually runs at a mile 2. It can jump up to a mile 3 and compete, but it can do a lot more over a mile 2. Great horse, Stealthy Lioness, second in the Derby behind Starboard Princess. As we saw, won the Preakness, and then second in the Belmont behind the Princess again. Hidden Recipe and Kitty Kingdom bred this one. Laid back disposition, that's what I'm looking for in some of these horses as well. I like a large build, I like laid back, and I like seeing high potential. So you can see here, maxed out the potential. It's the same as it was last year. Stealthy Lioness seems to be as good as she ever will be. And, you know, average best distance over a mile actually runs at a mile 2. That is an indicator. That is not the actual distance every single time. Now, about 90% of the cases I've seen it is. But for me, Lioness runs best at a mile 2. She can run and compete at a mile 1, but not consistently win. So, you can see no finish application, which is a bit of an issue. Decent cruising burst for my sort of stable at the moment. That's kind of where everybody is, around that 30 to 40 mark. Um, you know, the extra speed helps, but there's just a little bit less to like about her than Starboard Princess, and she also lacks the actual distance potential. Especially as a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, she did lack that little bit of extra distance that Starboard Princess had. So I kept her on a mile 1, while Princess was at a mile 2 to 3. And now they're both sort of caught up. They're both exactly the same rating. They're both doing fantastically well. And Stealthy Lioness has earned me 8.7 million. Now it does pale a little bit over what Starboard Princess has done, but they both won 25 races out of 30-31. Lioness, you can see 13 Group 1s, 5 Group 2s, 2 Group 3s. This is not a poor horse at all. Both rated 131, and really there's not much between them, which is interesting because I chose the 4 horses off the transfer list I had left. Of the 5, the 4 I chose to breed with were all quite good around that 1-1-1-2 marker, and both these horses have definitely proven that they can carry on that lineage and hopefully improve upon it, because I think these 2 are better than the 4 I started with. Now, last season's 2-year-olds who have done really well. Let's start with the Crimson Star. As you can see, 2 Group 3 wins, and he is from the lineage of Starboard Bow and Lady in a Red Dress. Average distance of 1-3, which should put him right in there for that Triple Crown sort of race. I believe that stamina bar is good enough. Great speed, good acceleration, not a great start, but ridden as a closer, which means he likes to linger near the back and then run through. You can see he had decent runs here. Second in a 7 furlong grade 1 before winning the allowance race here, and a couple of grade 3s before it. Really, it's a horse which has run well as a 2-year-old, but immediately on gaining 3-year-old status, his bar jumped up. Now, he was at about 20%. Now he's at, 65%? That's a long way to jump. So we're going to have to find his new distance. I believe it's probably in the 1-1-1-2 range, which is right on for the Triple Crown. We might have to wait to get him some really good races though. Now, that's just over, it's about 81% ability, 83, 84 potential. So pretty decent, for that 3-year-old season. I'm quite happy. The cruising burst is over 50%, it's about 52. This is the closest to Starboard Princess in terms of cruising burst, which means I expect big things from Crimson Star, which is again good because we don't have many colts. So it's really, I can't emphasize enough how good it is to have a filly and a colt who are both running well and look quite promising. Now, there's also a little bit of extra speed. You can see it doesn't deteriorate very quickly, which is nice. And, that means we can keep it out a little bit longer if we want to. They're probably going into the breeding barn age at the end of their 5-year-old seasons. Pretty much, that's how I like to do it. Not great finish, but great consistency. A little bit of manoeuvre there in the distance, which is nice again for Triple Crown racing. All in all, Crimson Star is a promising prospect. We just need to find out where he can run. I'm putting him in a grade 2 mile 2 race, and we're just hoping. Now, if he can win that, he's stepping up in class, he's stepping up in distance. We'll get a good indication if that is his distance or not. And if he is a mile 2 to a mile 3, I'm going to be very, very happy in terms of Triple Crown potential. So, along with Crimson Star, the unbeaten star of last season was Food for Thought. Now, Food for Thought, you can see, starts really well. Also got good speed and acceleration. and a 6 furlong horse last year actually now should be a 7 furlong to a mile. That's kind of where that bar is. So we're putting her in a mile at Lecomte, grade 3 race. Has won a grade 2, 2 grade 3s as a 2-year-old. Very happy with how it ran. And Hidden Recipe, again a good breeding horse with Wilhelmina over a mile. So we're going to be interested to see if that stamina bar actually improves anymore, because I wouldn't expect it to get much further up. Usually with a mile 1 horses, they'll be up around 55%. 65 is a mile 2. Anything above is a mile 3 to a mile 4 horse for me. So I think this could be where the horse finishes, which means it's not really going to be a contender for Triple Crown races. Might have a shot at the Preakness, but certainly no Belmont, and may struggle a little bit in the Kentucky Derby. Decent potential, decent ability, decent cruising burst. It's got a bit of extra speed, which I like. Decent finishing application. Really, this isn't a mega horse. So whether it finishes out this 3-year-old season with me or gets sold, I do not know yet. But I doubt, from what I'm seeing so far, the food for thought would actually make it into the breeding barn, because there's not a lot there that I need to pass on down the bloodline. So we may just sort of give that one a miss. Ethereal Dreamer didn't have a great 2-year-old season because I was close to over racing the horse. A mile 1's a good indicator there, which is again look 30 to 35% stamina bar. That could be a mile or a mile 1. I'm racing at a mile 1. Grade 3 is a step up in distance and class. This horse did well, however, over 5 furlongs. So good speed, good acceleration, decent starting as well. You can see potential is almost maxed out already. Not a lot of improvement between the 2 and 3-year-old seasons, but this horse ran a few times. It hasn't run a lot, and to have that kind of potential without too many races, I'm quite excited about seeing what it can do. Again, maybe not Triple Crown, but you can see here, 50% cruising burst. We like that. I believe this is only beaten slightly by Crimson Star and the Starboard Princess. So we'll see what this horse can do. Extra speed is good, enthusiasm's good, finish application consistency, likes to run at its distance, doesn't like to run outside itself, which might affect it again in terms of the Triple Crown, but the surface adaptability is going to be good for us because it likes a good track, but a lot of the big races are on usual sort of soft tracks or fast tracks, or we don't know really sometimes, and I don't pay a lot of attention to the going on each track before I book races. So having a little bit of adaptability really gets me out of jail sometimes. So that's Ethereal Dreamer, and last year's other horse that we ran, only 2 races again. I was told from before even the first race I was close to over racing, but I like to see them run a maiden, and I like to test them in either a feature race or a graded race. Now, unsettled a little bit here, but won its maiden, won it in style, ran it in a grade 2, won that as well. Starboard Bound, Bittersweet Rain, so I named it the Rainboard. 1 mile 2 breeding distance, that is good. You can see the stamina bar is up in that mile 2, mile 3 range that I like for the Triple Crown horses. This should be another exciting horse. Low deterioration, which means it will not degrade quickly. Cruising burst is just under 50, nice. Not great potential and ability, but good enough, I would say. And also consistency is great. There's a few things missing, like the finish application, but really Rainboard could be a nice little dark horse for that Triple Crown, along with maybe the Crimson Star as my best shot at it. Now the 2-year-olds that have come up this season, Hidden Beauty is Hidden Recipe and Beauty Wakita. You may see how I actually name my horses. I do try and take something from the father and the mother, try and meld them, maybe think outside the box a little bit. Like the starboard bow, that reminds me of a ship or ocean, so you know, if it's the starboard bow and west wind, then it may be ocean breeze, I call the resultant fall. So Hidden Beauty, as you can see, good potential and good ability, 80 ability at 2-year-old I'm really happy with. The breeding indicator's only a mile, but it does have some distance adaptability. Again, the surface adaptability, useful. A little bit of juvenile constitution, which means we can actually run it in more than maybe 3 or 4 races. I'm fairly happy to see that. As well as that, a little bit of cruising burst, a little bit of extra speed and finish. Could be a decent horse, one to watch maybe. Not sure if it will make the breeding barn, but it should have the potential to get there. It just needs a little bit more cruising burst for me to really want to see what it can do. Also, good speed acceleration start is always nice to see. So that's booked into a 6 furlong maiden. Along with that, we have got Grand Sahara, the starboard bow and Sahara lady. Not so great in terms of speed acceleration and starts, but again, 6 furlong maidens, kind of what I start all my horses, unless their stamina bars at 20%, in which case I throw them in to a 7 furlong or a mile. Even then, I'll probably start them off at 6 though, just to see what they do. Now the breeding indicator here is pretty good. I'm fairly happy with that, to be fair. I am fairly happy with that. The potential is there, we just need to get there. Ability of 70. If we can move over 80 by the end of his 2-year-old season, I'm going to be very happy. A little bit of cruising burst, would like to see a little bit more. Hopefully it gains at 3 and 4-year-old and gets 55 to 60, in which case we know we've got a really nice horse. The extra speed's there, the finish application is there, consistency is there. And we don't need to worry about distance adaptability because it's in the range. The going adaptability, good enough. Training adaptation seems to be pretty high. There's a lot to like about Grand Sahara, despite the fact that speed, acceleration and start don't seem to be there right now. So if it doesn't do well as a 2-year-old, I'm still likely to give it a chance as a 3-year-old. And then finally, again, 6 furlong maiden to start us off on our 2-year-old journey. Not a lot of speed, but good acceleration and a great start up to 90%. That is a very sort of nice place to be. A mile 1, that's just short of that Triple Crown level. But again, just under 80% for potential. 85, maybe 84% potential as a 2-year-old. Could be going into the 3-year-old season with an 84 ability horse that's got over 90% potential, which is where I see my top horses usually coming in as. High deterioration, which means maybe end of the 4-year-old season, maybe we'll push it to 5-year-old, but really this horse is going to weaken pretty quickly compared to some of the others we've got in the breeding barn. So I'm not sure if that actually breeds well or not. I'm not sure if that passes on to subsequent generations. Consistency's good. No finish application. Low cruising burst. There's bits and pieces, but again, I think there's enough there to see as a 3-year-old, even if the 4-year-old season might be its last and the 2-year-old might be a little underwhelming. That 3-year-old may be where it peaks, and maybe it wins a lot at 3, wins a fair bit at 4, earns the money. Maybe we get it into the breeding barn at that stage. I'm not too sure. So that's our stable, that's our setup. Those are our goals going forward, breeding for the best particular horses. And hopefully you'll come back soon to see episode 2 of this brand new series of Starters Order 6, and we'll see where these horses can go and how well we can develop them here at Rascalicious Farms. Until then, I've been Chris Orme. Take it easy, guys.